The next topic is interface circuits. The next topic is interface circuits. The interface, okay, it connects the two units. Nothing but if you want to transmit the data to your phone, to your laptop or computer, PC, you have connected the data cable, okay, through which the data is transmitted to your mobile to your PC or PC to your mobile. You have to connect the data through the data cable. The data cable acts as an interface between your mobile and your PC. Okay. Similarly, here also to transmit the data from input device to the processor, we connected the IO devices. So many IO devices are there. We have connect so many IO devices through the bus lines. Through the bus lines, we have connected the devices to the processor. These three are bus lines. This is processor and this is keyboard, this is printer, this is monitor and speaker, all these. Okay. To connect the IO device to the processor, we have to use the interface circuits. Okay, in between the bus and this IO device, we have to place one interface circuit. Okay, for each and every device, there is one interface will be there. This interface connects the IO device to the processor or bus lines. Simply, the bus lines from bus to the data is transmitted to the processor. The interface connects the IO device to the bus lines. Okay. And here also the printer interface circuit, it connects the printer circuit to the processor to the IO bus. Okay, the bus lines are called IO bus lines. Similarly, the monitor also will have one interface circuit and it connects the monitor to the processor unit through the interface circuit. And here the interface acts as the connecting wire between the processor and the IO devices. And to the interface, there is left hand side, there is right hand side. Left hand side is known as to the processor side, just connected to the bus lines, and to the right side it is known as port. Interface right hand side, it is known as port. Okay, and there are two types of ports. One is parallel port and another one is serial port. Another one is serial port. Okay, right hand side of the interface, that is to the IO device side. The right hand side is known as port. IO interface circuit consists of the circuitry required to connect an IO device to the computer bus, that is processor bus. The IO interface consists of the circuitry. Okay, required circuits are there to connect an IO device to the computer bus. IO device in computer bus connect cheyadaniki the required circuits are there. Side of the interface which connects to the computer has bus signals. Okay, that is left hand side the interface unit. Left hand side the interface unit this is left hand side. The interface circuit connects to the bus lines and it have address line data line, and control line. Here, address line, data line, control line. Side of the interface, left hand side of the interface, which connect to the computer. Computer side, it connects to the bus signals called address line, data line, and control line. And right hand side, that is right hand side, this one. The right hand side, this is left hand side, this is right hand side. Okay, the right hand side is known as port. Okay, the side of the interface which connects to the IO device. IO device side on the part name port under. Okay, this is known as port. Data path and associated controls to transfer data between the interface and IO device. IO device నుంచి interface ki data path. Okay, this side is also called port. This is known as port. The interface left hand side is to the bus lines. To the computer side, it connects to the bus lines. It connects to the bus lines, address line, data line, and control line. An interface which connects to the device, IO device, the right hand side is known as port. Okay, through which the data is transmitted from device to the interface circuit, from which interface to the bus lines, the data is transmitted. And ports can be classified into two types: parallel port and serial port. The ports are defined as two types, that is, they are classified into two types: parallel port and serial port. Parallel port nothing but the data transmitted at a time. The data transmitted at a time to the interface circuit, whereas serial port nothing but the interface, the device, like one device keyboard. If it is parallel port, nothing but if there are 8-bit data, then 8 bits are transmitted at a time. Okay, the 8 lines are there. The 8-bit data transmitted at a time to the interface circuit through these 8 lines. This is called parallel transmission or parallel port. Parallel ga at a time all the bits are transmitted to the interface circuit. This is the interface circuit, and this is the input device keyboard, and there is only one line through which the data, one at a time, 8-bit data, 0, this is one 8-bit data, through which one data at a time is transmitted to the interface circuit. There is only one single line. Then it is called serial port. Then it is called serial port. Parallel port and serial port. Parallel port nothing but it consists of number of lines depending on the number of bits in the number of bits, data bits in the device. If the device consists of 8 bits, there are 8 lines are there. If the device consists of 16 bits, there are 16 lines are there. That is parallel port. At a time, all the bits are transmitted to the interface circuit. And next one is serial port. Irrespective of the number of bits in the IO device, there is only one single line, and through which the data is transmitted one at a time. Okay, that is after first bit is transmitted, next the 0 bit is transmitted, then 1 up to the last bit is transmitted. This is called serial port, and this is called parallel port. This is called serial port. Okay, then there are two ports are classified into parallel port and serial port. First one, parallel port transfers data in the form of a number of bits, normally 8 or 16, towards from the device. Okay, device data bits 8 అయితే 8 or 16 అయితే 16. A number of bits, normally 8 or 16, depending on the data lines in the data bits in the device. It transmits at a time 8 bits or 16 bits. And serial port transfers and receives data 1 bit at a time, whereas in serial port, irrespective of the number of bits in the device, it receives and transmits only 1 data at a time, 1 bit. That is serial port. And parallel port nothing but at a time all the bits are transmitted parallel. Whereas in serial port, only one line will be there through which all the data is transmitted. Processor communicates with the bus in the same way, whether it is a parallel port or serial port. Whereas the processor communicates to the interface circuit. Okay, bus lines are there, and this is the keyboard. And here in between the keyboard and the bus lines, the interface circuits are there. The keyboard is connected to the interface circuit, either parallel port or serial port. Whereas from interface, the data is transmitted to the bus lines. The data received, processor communicate with the bus lines in the same way, whether it is parallel port or it receives the data in parallelly. Okay, port అనేది parallel port అయినా serial port అయినా సరే, the data is transmitted, received from the bus lines to the processor through parallel only. Okay, at a time the data is received by the processor. Okay, conversion from serial to parallel to serial and vice versa takes place inside the interface circuit. Okay, serial to parallel or parallel to serial. Okay, the conversion maybe takes place in the interface, inside the interface circuit. If the data transmitted to the input device from the input device to interface circuit serially, but the data transmitted to the bus lines parallel ga transmitted, then interface it converts data into the serial data into parallel data. Okay, the interface automatically converts the serial data into the parallel data. Okay, and then the data transmitted to the processor very easily. This is called interface circuit. Okay, it interface the processor and the input device. Okay, left hand side it connects to the bus line, and the right hand side, that is through the IO device side, it is known as port. And there are two types of ports are there, parallel port and serial port. In parallel port, the data is transmitted at a time, either it is 8 bits or 16 bits depending on the data lines in the device. Whereas in serial port, irrespective of the number of bits in the data, the one bit at a time is transmitted, that is called serial port. Okay, first one is parallel port. First one is the parallel port, that is here this is called processor. This is called the processor, and these are the bus lines connected to the process interface and processor. Data line, address line, and these three are called control signals, control lines. Bus lines simply called bus lines, and this is the interface circuit to the keyboard. Here I am taking the input device, an example. Input device example, keyboard I have taken, and the data is transmitted from keyboard to the processor. Keyboard నుంచి డేటాని నేను ప్రాసెసర్ కి ట్రాన్స్మిట్ చేయాలి through parallel port of interface circuit. Okay, one example, keyboard to the processor. Here keyboard, for each device there is one encoder and debouncing circuit. Debouncing nothing but whenever you press any key in the keyboard ను ప్రెస్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఆటోమేటిక్ గా కీ అవ్వాలి, బౌన్స్ అవ్వాలి. ఓకేనా, అందుకే వీఆర్ యూజింగ్ డీబౌన్సింగ్ circuit. అదే అలా ఉంచేసారనుకోండి, ప్రెస్ చేస్తున్నాము, ద సేమ్ క్యారెక్టర్ విల్ బి డిస్ప్లేడ్ అవుతుంది. కాబట్టి వెన్ ఎవర్ యూ ప్రెస్ కీ ఇన్ ద కీబోర్డ్ దట్ ఆటోమేటికలీ బౌన్స్ బ్యాక్. అందుకే దిస్ కాల్ డీబౌన్సింగ్ అంటారు. ఓకే, అండ్ ఎన్కౌడర్ సర్క్యూట్ ఎందుకు వాడతారంటే, ఐ హావ్ ఆల్రెడీ డిస్కస్డ్, whenever the processor is communicates to any device, it sends the address on the address line, and this address is decoded by the decoder circuit and comparing with the address of the device. Okay, that is the encoder circuit. Okay, address ni encode chesi processor పంపించిన address device address ni match చేసుకుంటది. If it is matched, then the path is established, otherwise the remaining devices are disabled అవుతాయి. Okay, this is input device, and this is debouncing circuits and encoder circuits to encode the address, and here the interface between the device and the processor ki device ki madhya we have to place the interface circuit. Okay, and to the left hand side it connects to the bus lines. To the left hand side it connects to the bus lines, and to the right hand side it is known as port. It is connected to, it is known as port. Depending on the number of lines in the address line, it is parallel port or serial port. Okay, this is the circuit diagram. Clear? This is parallel port circuit diagram to transmit the data from keyboard to one example. I have taken example to transmit data from keyboard to the processor through the interface circuit, which has parallel port. This side is known as port, parallel port. This side left hand side connected to the bus lines. The interface connected to the processor is from left side through the bus lines. To the right side, it connected to the device and it is known as port. Depending on the number of lines in the port, it is parallel port or serial port. Okay. Now I have taken an example to transmit the data keyboard. Whatever the key pressed in the keyboard, that is transmitted to the processor through the interface circuits. Okay. The keyboard is connected to a processor using parallel port. The keyboard is connected to the processor. We connected the keyboard to the processor through the interface circuits and all the required circuits to connect the keyboard to the processor through the bus lines. Okay. Processor is 32 bits and use memory map IO and asynchronous protocol. And processor asynchronous protocol nothing but the keyboard clock generator is different and processor clock generator is different. Both are different. Both are not controlled on the same clock generator. Both devices are controlled by with different clock generators. That's why it is asynchronous transmission. Asynchronous. The keyboard is controlled by another clock generator, and the processor is controlled by another clock generator. So the transmission is known as asynchronous transmission. Okay. On the processor side of the interface, we have processor side of the interface to the processor side, that is left hand side. On the processor side of the interface, it consists of data lines here. Data ante not only the single arrow mark from interface to the processor. Okay, data nothing but there are number of lines are there depending on the data lines in the input device. There are 8 lines or 16 lines. Data lines, address lines. It has to specify the address of the data in register. Data in register ki address ఉంటుంది. The address specify చేయడానికి address lines and control line, the read write line is also known as control line అంటారు. To perform read operation or to perform write operation, read by W bar. If it is this line will be 1, then it perform read operation. If the line will be 0, it perform write operation. Okay, because 0 is the write operation, రైట్ బార్ కాబట్టి లాజిక్ యాక్టివ్ లో ఇన్పుట్ కాబట్టి 0 ఇస్తే రైట్ ఆపరేషన్ జరుగుతుంది అండ్ 1 ఇస్తే రీడ్ ఆపరేషన్ జరుగుతుంది. దట్ ఈస్ ఆర్ బై డబ్ల్యూ బార్ ఇది యాక్టివ్ is in high state, then it performs the read operation. It is in the low state, it performs the write operation. And the master ready, slave ready, because it is asynchronous transmission. We have to send the control signals whether the master is ready or the slave is ready. Master nothing but to receive the data, slave nothing but send the data. Sender is known as slave and receiver is known as master. Okay, master ready, slave ready, because it is both are controlled with different clock generators. That's why asynchronous transmission kabatti the control signals are required to transmit the data between two asynchronous devices. That is, both the devices are operated under two control clock generators. That is master ready signal and slave ready signal. Okay, this is the construction. Clear? Data line to transmit the data and to specify the address of the data in the register. Address lines are there, and whether to perform read operation or to perform write operation, the control signal read by W bar signal, and master ready and slave ready. These two are control signals to transmit the data between processor and the keyboard through asynchronous transmission. Okay, processor నుంచి keyboard transmit చేయడానికి both the devices are independent. That's why both are operated with own clock generators. Both are operated with own clock generators. That's why the transmission is known as asynchronous transmission. In asynchronous transmission, if you want to transfer the data, the control signals are required. Master ready and slave ready signals are required. Okay, when the master is ready to accept the data, it sends the master ready signal. Then the slave, after receiving the master ready signal, the slave send the data and also sending the slave ready signal. I am also ready to transmit the data. Please accept the data and the slave also send the slave ready signal. Then the data is transmitted from slave to master. Okay, depending on the control signals sent by the master ready and slave ready signals. This is called the construction to which the data is transmitted from keyboard to the processor. Okay, keyboard to the processor. Similarly, from processor to output operation. From processor to, we have to transmit the data to the printer also. Okay, that is output operation. This is input operation. This is read operation. This is write operation. Okay, the operation first on the keyboard side of the interface. On the keyboard side of the interface, that is to the left right hand side. Okay, this side. Encoder circuit which generates a code for the key pressed. That means whenever a key is pressed in the keyboard, in keyboard A, B, C, D, E, all letters 0 to 9 and all special characters are all are there, but all these characters are not recognized by the processor. It only recognizes only ones and zeros. That's why whenever a key is pressed in the keyboard, a key is pressed in the keyboard, that key converted to encoded to an ASCII code, American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Whatever the key pressed in the keyboard, let us take K encode. Then the K will be encoded to 8-bit ASCII code, 8-bit ASCII code through the encoder circuit. And debouncing circuits ఎందుకు వాడతారు? After pressing the key అవ్వాలి, మళ్ళీ బ్యాక్ బౌన్స్ అవ్వాలి. లేకపోతే అలా ఉండిపోయింది అనుకోండి, ఆల్వేస్ ద కీ ఎన్కోడ్ అయిపోతుంది. కాబట్టి డీబౌన్సింగ్ సర్క్యూట్ ఎందుకంటే ద ప్రెస్డ్ కీ, దట్ ఈస్ కే ప్రెస్ చేసాం అనుకోండి, ఆ కీ అని మళ్ళీ బౌన్స్ బ్యాక్ అవ్వాలి. అందుకనే డీబౌన్సింగ్ సర్క్యూట్ ఇచ్చారు. ఎన్కోడర్ సర్క్యూట్ విచ్ జనరేట్స్ ఏ కోడ్ ఫర్ ది కీ ప్రెస్డ్, అంటే మీరు ఏ కీ అయితే ప్రెస్ చేశారో ఆ కీ సంబంధించిన ASCII కోడ్ ని జనరేట్ చేస్తుంది. ద ఎన్కోడర్ జనరేట్స్ an ASCII కోడ్ ఫర్ ది కీ ప్రెస్డ్ ఇన్ ద కీబోర్డ్. కీబోర్డ్ లో మీరు ఏ కీ అయితే ప్రెస్ చేస్తారో ఆ కీ యొక్క ASCII కోడ్ ని జనరేట్ చేస్తుంది. అండ్ డీబౌన్సింగ్ సర్క్యూట్ విచ్ ఎలిమినేట్స్ ద ఎఫెక్ట్ ఆఫ్ కీ బౌన్స్ అండ్ ఏ సింగిల్ కీ స్ట్రోక్ మే అపియర్ యాజ్ మల్టిపుల్ ఈవెంట్స్ టు యువర్ ప్రాసెసర్. ఒక్కసారి ప్రెస్ చేయగానే అది మల్టిపుల్ టైమ్స్ తీసుకుంటుంది. అందుకనే దాన్ని ఎలిమినేట్ చేయడానికి డీబౌన్సింగ్ సర్క్యూట్స్ అది యూజ్ చేస్తారు. ఓకే, అండ్ డేటా లైన్స్ contain the code for the key. Okay, whatever the 8-bit ASCII code, మీరు ఏ కీ అయితే ప్రెస్ చేస్తారో ఆ 8-bit కీ okay, ASCII code 8 bits are transmitted to the data lines. That 8-bit ASCII code is transmitted through the data lines. Through the data lines, the 8-bit ASCII code and valid line changes from 0 to 1 when the key is pressed. Whenever a new character is pressed in the keyboard, then that character is converted to 8-bit ASCII code through the encoder circuit, and the 8-bit ASCII code is transmitted through the data lines, and also a valid signal is transmitted. A valid signal is transmitted by the device. That means I am sending the new character, please accept the data అని చెప్పి a valid signal, that is the valid data is valid. A valid data is sent by the device and it goes to 0 to 1. When a new character is transmitted, it goes to 0 to 1. When only the valid signal will be high state, the data is valid, otherwise the data is invalid. Okay, if the valid signal is 1 only, the data on the data lines is valid. Otherwise, the data is invalid. This causes the code to be loaded into data in and sin to be set to 1. And the data, whenever the valid signal is 1, then only the data on the data lines is transmitted to the data in register. That is, data in register loki K yokka ASCII bit code vastundi. And then SIN flag set to 1 chestar. And SIN flag set to 1 in the interface circuits. Okay, this is the keyboard to the interface operation. Clear? Whenever a key is pressed in the keyboard, that key converted to 8-bit ASCII code by the encoder circuit, and that 8-bit encoded data is transmitted to the data lines, and also the device sending the valid signal. That is, whatever the data on the data line is the valid data. And then only the data from the data lines is transmitted to the data in register. That is the data. Now the data in register contains a new character K. Just actual గా అయితే 8-bit ASCII code ఉంటుంది. మీకు అర్థం అవడం గురించి నేను K అని రాసానమ్మా. That K is transmitted to the data in register, and then whenever the data in register contains a new data, the SIN flag set to 1 అవుతుంది. And the SIN flag initial గా 0 ఉంటుంది. 0 nothing but the data in register is empty. If it contains a new character, the SIN flag set to 1 అవుతుంది. And the SIN flag is set by interface circuit. Otherwise, the device sometimes or sometimes the general 90% the SIN flag is set to 1 by the interface circuit only. The interface is set the SIN flag to 1 whenever the data in register contains new character. Okay. This is input side. That is from keyboard to the interface. The data is transmitted in this manner. Clear? Now, the data in the data in register. The data in the character is now available in the data in register. Now the data from the data in register is transmitted to the processor register. Processor lo register ki transfer cheyali. The K ane character ni processor like transmit cheyali from interface to this one. The printer operation. Here from the data line, whenever after that the processor is checking the SIN flag. The processor is checking the SIN flag. If it is one nothing but the data in register contains the new data, and the processor is sending the address of the data in register through the address lines, and then the data in register is transmitted to the that is, and also the processor is sending the read operation. Just read the data from the data in నుంచి data read చేసుకోవాలి. కాబట్టి read by write signal is set to 1. Read by write signal is set to 1, and the address of the data in register is placed on the address line, and then the interface receiving these two control signals. Then the data in the data in signal, the data in register is transferred to the data in the data lines of the processor bus, through which the 8-bit ASCII code is transmitted to the processor circuit. Okay, processor register the data 8-bit ASCII code is transmitted to the processor signal. Okay, this is from interface to processor. The processor is checking the SIN flag. If it is one nothing but the processor is sending the address of the data in register, and also read by W bar signal made to 1 because it read operation property that will be made to 1, and then the interface is receiving these two signals, and it's sending the data on the data in register. Data in register on 8-bit ASCII code ni data lines ద్వారా the data is transmitted to processor register transfer. Okay, this is called from interface to the processor circuit. That is through whatever the key pressed in the keyboard is received by the processor, and now similarly KUMA all the data is transmitted to the processor. This is read operation. Okay, this is called the read operation from keyboard to the processor. Similar operation from keyboard to printer also. the read operation is the write operation. That means here the processor to printer, okay, processor to printer circuit, the write operation in a similar manner. Here also the output interface, the printer circuit, and the printer is connected to the processor through an out interface circuit. The printer is connected to your processor using parallel. Here also the printer circuit is also connected by means of parallel port. Okay. And processor is 32 bits, uses memory map drive and asynchronous bus protocol. Similarly, same manner, because printer is independent unit and also processor is also independent unit, and both are operated under different clock generators. Both are operated under different clock generators. Then it is asynchronous transmission. That is asynchronous bus protocol follow one. Here also left hand side, processor side data lines to transmit the data from processor to printer circuit, data lines, and also address lines to identify the data out register, and also read write by master ready, slave ready. These two are the control signal for asynchronous transmission. Okay. Similar manner, here printer that keyboard. This is read operation, this is write operation. కీబోర్డ్ కాబట్టి మీకు కీని ఎన్కోడ్ చేయాలి, యాస్టీ బిట్ కీని ఎన్కోడ్ చేయడానికి ఎన్కోడర్స్, డీబౌన్స్ సర్క్యూట్స్ ఉంటాయి. కానీ ప్రింటర్కి అయ్యే అవసరం లేదు కాబట్టి ద సర్క్యూట్ ఇస్ నాట్ నెసెసరీ ఫర్ ప్రింటర్ సర్క్యూట్. ఎన్కోడర్ సర్క్యూట్ అండ్ డీబౌన్సింగ్ సర్క్యూట్స్ ఆర్ నాట్ రిక్వైర్డ్ ఫర్ కీబోర్డ్, ఫర్ ప్రింటర్ సర్క్యూట్. దిస్ టూ ఆర్ రిక్వైర్డ్ ఫర్ కీబోర్డ్ ఓన్లీ. ఓకేనా? అండ్ ద సేమ్ కన్స్ట్రక్షన్ the processor and printer circuit through the parallel port of the interface circuit. Here data in, here data out. That in read operation, that is S in, here S out. Input operation కాబట్టి S in అంటారు, అవుట్పుట్ ఆపరేషన్ అయితే S out అంటారు. అవుట్పుట్ ఫ్లాగ్, ఇన్పుట్ ఫ్లాగ్, S in, S out. Similarly data in, data out. Similarly output operation కాబట్టి data out. Okay. The operation on the printer side, the ideal signal line will be in the printer assets when it is ready to accept the character. This causes the assert flow to be set to 1. When the printer is ideal, and it has no work to perform, and the printer is ఖాళీగా ఉంది. Then the printer ఏం చేస్తుంది, I am ideal, అంటే నేను ఖాళీగా ఉన్నాను, నాకు డేటా పంపించండి ప్రింట్ చేయడానికి అని చెప్పి the printer ఏం చేస్తుంది, it's sending ideal signal. Then S out flag will be 1 అవుతుంది. S out flag will be 1. That means if S out is equal to 1, nothing but the printer will be ideal. The printer will be an ideal state. That is, it is free to print the characters. Whenever the printer is ideal, it's sending the ideal signal, and then the interface set the S out flag set to 1. This causes S out flag to be set to 1. Then processor is checking the S out flag. S out flag check చేస్తుంది. The read operation, the S out flag read data will be read by the processor. If it is 1, nothing but the printer will be in the ideal state. Then the processor places a new character into a data out register. After that, that processor ingests the here the data here ఇందాక ఏం చేసాం మనం, కుమార్ ట్రాన్స్మిట్ చేసాం, ఇప్పుడు ఆ కుమార్ ని ప్రింటర్ చేయాలి. Then the K will be transmitted to the data out register through the data lines. The K will be transmitted to the data out register through the data lines, and then data out register. The processor places a new character into a data out register. Processor ఏం చేస్తుంది, the character ని data out register కి ట్రాన్స్మిట్ చేస్తుంది. And valid signal accepted by the interface circuit when it places a new character on the data lines. And the data from the data out to the printer circuit, the data is transmitted. Data out నుంచి ఇప్పుడు మనం printer కి వెళ్ళాలి. Interface ఏం చేస్తుంది, now whatever the data in the output data out register, అంటే k యొక్క ASCII bit data out register లో ఉంటుంది. That 8-bit ASCII code data out register నుంచి data lines ద్వారా printer కి ట్రాన్స్మిట్ చేయాలి. Then interface ఏం చేస్తుంది, places the new character on the data lines, అంటే data out లో ఉన్న డేటాని data lines ని ప్లేస్ చేసి the interface sending the valid signal, అంటే డేటా లైన్స్ మీద ప్లేస్ చేసిన డేటా వ్యాలిడ్ సిగ్నల్, వ్యాలిడ్ డేటా, ప్లీజ్ ప్రింట్ ద డేటా ఆన్ ది పేపర్ అని చెప్పి ఇంటర్ఫేస్ ఏం చేస్తుంది, ప్రింటర్ కి ఒక సిగ్నల్ పంపిస్తుంది, వ్యాలిడ్ సిగ్నల్ పంపిస్తుంది. Then the data on the data lines is received by printer circuit and it prints the data on the paper K. Okay. Similarly, all the characters are printed in the same manner. KUMAR. All the characters are printed on the paper through the same operation. That the read operation, this is write operation. That is keyboard to printer, this is processor to printer. Okay. That is read operation and write operation by using parallel port. Okay. In the next class, we have discussed about the serial port. Okay. Thank you, one and all. Here, Kavya.
Yes, sir.
Attendance తీసుకున్నావమ్మా?
తీసుకున్నాను సార్.
ఓకే. Thank you, one and all. Next class today. 462 ఏంటమ్మా? 462 హ్యాండ్ రైట్ చేసావు.
ఏం లేదు సార్, టచ్ అయిపోయింది సార్.
ఓకే, క్యారీ ఆన్.